Boxing King Media in association with Boxrel here at the Johnny Nelson residence. Johnny, thank you for inviting me over. Beautiful home, and it's nice to see that boxing's done well for you.
You know what, I actually, I'm behind the fighters. I always like to see fighters coming out with something after all the hard work they've done. So I don't want to take credit for this. I suppose I put it down to my ex-wife. She was the one that made me keep hold of my money and not blow it out the water. So, but yeah, you know, being blessed by God with that. But you know, the little things. As long as you've got a roof over your head and food in your cupboard, that's what's important.
Definitely. Let's get straight to it. So I want to speak to you about the first fight this weekend. Kid Galahad, Maxi Hughes. You know, your old gym mate. I think the first thing I want to ask you is Barry's not done any media at all this week. He didn't do any media today. Is that a good thing to do?
I think Barry, listen, it was a shock, his loss, and it must have hurt him cutting deep. It was a shock to a lot of us because Barry's the ultimate professional. He lives in the gym. He lives boxing, he eats boxing, he breathes boxing. So now he just wants to box. Because I think after the loss, I'm quite sure he saw the turn of people, the good and bad of human nature, where people that were slapping his back, telling him X, Y, Z, all of a sudden disappeared. They weren't there to support him when he needed it. So it was a reality check. Barry can fight. Barry just needs that opportunity to get to the top again. And sometimes you have to learn your lesson a hard way. And I think Barry, he's learned it. He's not messing about. He just wants to get the job done. The downside is, unfortunately, if you're a good boxer, sometimes it's not good enough. It's not enough. It's a case of you've got to be the package. You've either got to be the villain or a hero, a salesman or a numbskull. And so you've got to have something else to your repertoire, because there's millions of fighters out there that are really good but don't sell tickets. So if they don't sell tickets, the promoter's not going to push them and get involved with them. Barry has a fan base, and so now he's got to do this for himself and Dominic. Once he's done that, then he's re-established himself, his confidence and self-belief to say, right, I'm back in the mix. So it's a slow burn, and I'm sure it'll be okay.
How do you think it is for him? Because I did ask Eddie this question earlier, because he was effectively the third option for Maxi Hughes. It was Ryan Garcia or George Linares. Potentially, if it was Linares, you know, what would Eddie have done with Barry?
Again, that's Barry's in that Who Needs Him club. He's in the same club that Dillian White was in, you know, and I think with him losing, especially how he lost, now people think, oh, I see vulnerability there, I see a chink in the armour. So he'll be considered because people forget how awkward, how hard he is to fight. So it could have been a blessing. You've got to try and look for the silver lining in most things. So for Barry and for Eddie's job is to promote well and push him through. That's the job. Now he's giving him an opportunity to get back in the mix again. So it's now down to Barry to get the job done. So it's easy to blame anybody and everybody else. But at the end of the day, you know, Dominic will tell you this, Barry will tell you this. The buck stops with him. So he's just got to get the job done and let everybody else get on with their job.
I watched the face-off earlier, and he said Maxi Hughes is nothing special. Could he be underestimating him?
No, they're just words, trust me. Barry respects all fighters. And why is he going to say good things about you to big up your ego, make yourself feel good going into a fight with him? He's got to say stuff to make you doubt yourself, think twice about yourself, think you're lower than him. It's a fight game. That's the psychology of the fight game. Barry respects for all fighters, and don't think he's overlooked Maxi Hughes. He knows exactly what he's doing, why he's doing it, and why he's saying what he's saying.
And then a quick one on the regards to not doing any media today. You walked straight out after the press conference, and I know Brendan was big on getting people out there and doing shadow boxing in supermarkets and town centres. In a similar sort of way, it's almost like Brendan was ahead of his time. He was thinking social media back then.
Yeah, he was. I was saying that. I can remember saying to Naz, can you imagine if there's 40 million people in the Yemen and they all paid £1 to see you? You'd be on £40 million, and it was like, yeah. He's talking pay-per-view before pay-per-view even hit the headlines. So Brendan, he was a trailblazer. He knew exactly what he was talking about. And I think with this situation with Barry, he'd have probably told Barry to get out there, smile, get your job done, you know, focus. But Barry's decided to take another path and think, I'm not messing about with you lot. I've got a job to do. I'm serious about it. And I get that. I get that because he's got to prove something to himself and get that confidence back again and self-belief back again.
And see if you can try not to be biased on this, but does he beat Maxi Hughes Saturday night?
I can't, listen, the Barry I know is an absolute nightmare. The Barry I know is a boxing genius. And we all make mistakes. We all can trip up. Don't underestimate Barry. And I think Barry is probably head and shoulders above Maxi Hughes. But, you know, Barry's got to prove that. Barry's got to be on his A game Saturday night to say, this is me, this is what I can do. And let people do the talking, let everybody do the assessing, saying he can fight or can't fight. He's just got to win and make sure he wins good.
He didn't answer. Does he win, though?
I do believe he wins. I believe he wins. I think on points. I think his punch output now has gone up in weight as well. He's comfortable at the weight and what he's doing. I think Barry he's got a good work engine, and he's annoying. He's annoying to the point where, you know, when two guys are fighting, one to step off, the other to step off, you get an unwritten breather. When you step off, he's on you. When you step on, he slips and then he pops you again from every direction. And so his timing is a different kind of clock to what most fighters work to. So I expect Barry to win on points.
Sound. And then the other big fight is Joyce and Joseph Parker. I spoke to a lot of people today and last couple of days. Most people are saying Parker outboxes him early, but then there's going to come a time where Joyce is going to take over that fight. Do you see it the same sort of way?
I do. I think Joseph Parker's got good hands, good movement, and he's got a good boxing brain and has the experience from all former WO heavyweight champion. So he's used to being with the big guys of all shapes and sizes. Joyce, he works at one pace, and that same pace that he starts with, it will be the same pace he finishes at. So if your fitness is to be questioned and your confidence and self-belief is to be questioned, he'll ask those questions. You've got to answer it in the ring. I think Joyce is tough. I think Joyce knows exactly what he's got, what he's capable of doing. And because he looks so robotic, so easy to hit, people disrespect him. And so they don't give him the respect that's due when they're in the ring with him. And so they think they can just walk straight through him. Or befuddling, and they'll let the shots go because, yes, a lot of free shots here. You're going to pay later down the line because you've just gashed yourself out. So Joseph Parker, hopefully, he's smart enough to not make that mistake. He's got to be economical with his work rate. He's got to be smart with his punch output. And he's got to pace himself well. If he does that, then he can win on points. But I've just a funny feeling that when you see someone that's in front of you, you can hit him and you can let the shots go. You're so tempted to blast, let the shots off and then back off. I think Joseph Parker's got to, instead of throwing three combinations when he's got the shots going, throw two, step off, throw two, step off, one step off, two. He's got to make sure he preserves that energy because the back end of the fight is going to be harder for him because Joyce will keep coming and keep wearing you down and keep working you down, and that way he wins. Joyce will be Joyce, and if Joseph Parker boxes any other way, he loses.
What's your gut instinct telling you? Does Joyce win or does Parker pull it off?
My gut instinct is telling me Joyce wins. That's my gut instinct. I don't see at this moment in time the fight, the opponents he's had. I've looked at Joe and I thought, Joe, you just got a little bit too much from him. You know, you underestimate him. Everybody underestimates Joyce. They think he's a soft touch, and he's not. He's a very clever guy. And for Joseph Parker, this is a good build. It's a good shout. It's a good fight to have, because he dethrones Joyce. Then you got to respect him. You know, Joyce, he gets in there and he fights. He'll be sparring with people like AJ and people like that, and he's tough. They have some proper tear-ups behind closed doors. So for Parker to deal with him when it counts, that's a big win. It's a bigger win than people give credit for. Parker's number 2, Joe's number 1. You know, so this fight is not a meaningless fight for Parker. It's more meaningless to Joyce than it is to Parker. So it's a good fight.
Sound. I just want to get your opinion on stuff that's been going on with Eddie Hearn on Twitter. Have you seen any of that stuff the last couple of days?
What's he done now?
Quite a lot, to be fair. So it all started with the zone pay-per-view numbers for Canelo GGG3. Dan Rafael put out a tweet saying that it only did 500,000, which is half of what it did for the first two fights. So that was the first part, and then Eddie Hearn came back and said it did 1 million, not 500,000. And then there's been Stephen Espinosa's come on board as well, and he said the zone have been cryptic about the way they've put the message out. I think he's saying that they're trying to obscure the facts, and they're trying to blend in the people that already subscribed to the people that actually bought the event. If you catch my drift. Yes. So we're kind of in a position like, who do we believe? Do we believe Dan Rafael and his sources, or do we believe what Eddie Hearn's saying?
Dan Rafael's no idiot, and he's no liar either. That's probably all I say on that. I can't see Dan Rafael lying about that. He's a straight guy, straight shooter. So if you've any sense about you, don't miss the wood for the trees. Don't make anybody baffle you with gobbledygook. I believe Dan. And listen, it's about transparency and explanation. And if Dan's saying that, sit him down, let him explain to you where he got his figures from, and then sit Eddie down and let him explain to you where he got his figures from. I think Dan he's well respected, Dan Rafael, and so I have no reason to doubt what he's saying.
I spoke to Eddie today and obviously asked him that question. He feels that it's probably the people behind at Showtime or Stephen Espinosa who are trying to tarnish the zone and the numbers, and that's where he probably got the numbers from, but obviously we don't know. Yeah,
but I get that, but it's not about who's done or said what, it's about the fact, what the numbers are. So it's not blaming Espinosa, it's not blaming Showtime, it's just, let's stick to the fact, what the argument is, what the numbers are. And so that, and I'm quite sure if anybody's in a position to prove it, they prove it. But you know what difference does it make? It was a good fight. The fans got what they wanted. The ones that watched it got what they wanted. This is just tittle tattle they're arguing over.
Definitely. And also wanted to get your opinion on Jake Paul's comments. Did you see Jake Paul's comments?
Go on.
This is even worse. So Jake Paul did an interview a couple of days ago, and he basically said in a roundabout way that Glenn Feldman, one of the judges, he's in Eddie Hearn's pockets, and Eddie's been paying him, flying him around the world to judge fights that favour Eddie. And obviously Glenn scored the AJ Usyk fight to AJ, and he basically said that he's getting paid by Eddie to score fights in his favour.
So Jake Paul, unfortunately for Jake Paul, he's not in a position to have authority and experience on the integrity of members of boxing. He's a newbie. He's still a newbie. He's in a great position financially and popularity-wise, in a great position. But in reality, and what he's saying, they're slanderous, really. And so, but you might afford to throw out that slander, to say these things, and if it's true or untrue, then parties should stand up and say, you know what, you slandered my name, you done X, Y, Z. Jake Paul, let's just not be fooled. This guy's a young kid that's done brilliant in what he's done, but as a fighter and to be involved in fighting, he's green. He's still in the novice stages. But he has the platform to make enough noise for you and I to be talking about him. So if that's Jake Paul's opinion, that's his opinion. Everybody's got opinions. If they want to take it any further, it's obvious, it's business. You just think, oh, well, prove it. And the accused needs to say, well, wait on a minute, you're questioning my integrity. And that's where it comes. So someone's got to stand up there and say, all right, and sit down and explain to me why Jake Paul's wrong or right.
Well, the interview has since been taken down, so I'm guessing something's happened behind the scenes. The other thing I want to ask you about is, have you seen Usyk's comments today about AJ, post-fight reaction?
No.
So Usyk said, he was asked about AJ's post-fight reaction with regards to throwing the belts out. Usyk said, "What a poor fool. He reminded me of a little boy who wanted to play with a ball, but it was taken away from him, so he decided to throw it over the neighbour's fence."
Usyk has the right to say that, and Anthony Joshua didn't have the right to do what he did. Unfortunately for Anthony Joshua, instead of his performance against Usyk in that last fight, they're going to talk about the aftermath after the performance. And I'm quite sure Anthony Joshua's behaviour, his acts, what he did after the fight, I'm quite sure he probably regrets some of it. He wanted to send a message out. He was emotional. He made a bad judgment, bad call. And Usyk was right to say what he said because it was his moment. And Usyk was cool enough to say, you know what, you're going for him, I won't pick my belts up. You know, it's like a kid that probably lost at Monopoly. That's the impression AJ gave across, but you know he's not that guy. Unfortunately, as humans, when we get emotional, we say and do stupid things, and people think, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did or said that. And I'm quite sure AJ looked back at that and think, why did I do that? But it showed a character flaw in Asia that everybody's talking about instead of the performance. And that's just how it was. And you know what? Sometimes when you speak to AJ, when I speak to him or hear things he says, I think he's achieved so much, but sometimes he's so naive in his way of thinking or his outlook, and so you think that's some talent, man, because you're doing shit, you don't know how you're doing it, or you're saying and doing things and which are very novice, like saying to Usyk afterwards, "How did you beat me? I'm bigger than you." That's rookie conversation. And so I think, I'm quite sure, you go through experience in life, good and bad, to get wisdom. And that's one of those experiences for Anthony Joshua where I think, all right, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So Usyk, I don't blame him. He has every right to say what he wants to say. You never know, these guys could get it on again, because if the fight with AJ and Fury comes off, and if he happens to beat Fury, then it could happen again. My take on that is, I think Alexander Usyk, like AJ tried to translate in the fight, is that Usyk's been boxing since he was 5 years old. Usyk will probably have AJ's number 90 times out of 100, and I think AJ knows that, and that's what he couldn't get his head around. He couldn't get it, he couldn't understand it, and you saw someone better than the other. And so if the fight does happen, then it's going to be another big mountain to climb for AJ. But listen, we all make mistakes. We all say and do things that we regret. And I think that is one of his actions after that fight. I'm quite sure he regretted a lot of it.
Thank you for that, Johnny. Just before I let you go, could you, because whenever I speak to you, Dom, or somebody that's got experience with old school boxing, I always like to get them to share a little story with me. Not a long one, like a quick minute on and I'm guessing I'm a big fan of Brendan Ingle, so you must have so many. Just share me a little golden nugget that you may not have shared before, whether it's a personal experience or something that he told you and came off. I watched a documentary the other day and I saw... it was a Harold Graham documentary where he saw some National Front graffiti on the wall and he was taking kids around to take it off, but I'm sure you got loads of stories. Yeah,
do you know that story then?
I don't know the full background.
So the story was, where the gym was, the National Front, you youngsters that don't know what National Front is like, it's, I don't know what it's called. EDL, that kind of thing there, but it's a little more violent back then. And they sprayed NF on the side of the garages at the side of the gym. And for years, Brendan wouldn't paint it over, just left it there. So it's black background and painted in white. And everybody kept saying, Brendan, why won't we take this off? And Brendan's wise and smart in his wisdom. He just wouldn't do it. And then one day, as per usual, he got us all stood there and said, listen now. He started giving us a speech about the facts of life, how life should be. And he said, this young man here, he said, right, for years you've been asking me to take the signs off the NF sign off. He said, I didn't want to do that. He said, but now, let me explain to you. The person that wrote that has been amongst you. He's been training here amongst you. He's been educated to understand how understand his view on life is so wrong. His dad was in the National Front. He was in the National Front. And this guy was a member of the gym. Now this guy's going to marry a mixed race woman. You know, so now all of a sudden this guy's mindset, he got it so wrong, but he had to be in the gym amongst such a multicultural gym to understand how ignorant he was. So Brendan wouldn't rub it off because he wanted that reminder every day. And he actually pulled the guy up, and he was like a friend in the gym. Anybody got on with him, like, you did it. But his dad, Brendan, knew this guy's background. He knew his family background. And his word was, it's about ignorance, it's about education. And this young boy had to be educated in a real life way, not by sitting him down and putting a book in front of him or berating him, saying you this, that, and the other. He had to be educated through life by being amongst the people that he's supposed to be against, that he's writing the National Front sign against, and ironically ended up marrying I think she was mixed race. I think she was, or black woman. And Brendan just smiled. And I think the reason why Brendan told the story then was because he just said to Brendan, I've got engaged. And when he told Brendan who to, Brendan started laughing. And that's why he told us all the story. And it was just about education. Education and conversation is the key. In most conflicts, and then I think Brendan's saying was, if you're ignorant and you don't know you're ignorant, it's a shame. If you're ignorant and you know you're ignorant, that's the crime. And that was Brendan's words. That's what he said to us. So he said, if you don't know, you don't know. When you still conduct yourself that way, that's where the problem is. So Brendan, he was very smart and very clever at educating you in a very unorthodox way, but that many people around just would never understand. I told you a little story before off camera, and naturally it came to me like that Brendan saying, always have a witness. You know, this to me is like second nature now. And I'm quite sure guys that have met Brendan, that have been in the gym with Brendan, there's little things they've done in their life as adults, as parents, as fathers, as sons, as brothers or sisters, that Brendan taught them, that's been so useful in their everyday life. So those that were ever fortunate enough to be around Brendan and learn from Brendan, trust me, you got nuggets of wisdom there that you can't buy, borrow, or pretend to have.
That's amazing, because I didn't know the full context, and I saw that bit on the documentary where that same kid you're talking about, and he does say that, yeah, I've changed my views now, I'm not into all that. So that's fascinating. Thank you for that.
Yeah, but the thing is, you go to schools, they'll teach you maths, they'll teach you history, they'll teach you English, they'll teach you geography. Unfortunately, schools, they need to understand about teaching you life skills. Life skills is, and to get life skills, your teachers need to be people that have had life skills, that educate you in life, how to be parents, how to be responsible. And Brendan was our teacher. And it was such a great way to be taught, because you practically got taught. I wasn't great with pen and paper, but I was great with hearing, seeing, listening to listening. There's a difference. People can talk, you've got to listen. And Brendan taught us to, he says, schools teach you to remember. I'm teaching you to think. And that's the difference. You've got to think fast on your feet. You can remember anything. There might be so many educated people out there that can remember what happened in 1964, 2 o'clock on the Tuesday afternoon. He's taught you to remember, but you've got to be taught to think. If you can think, then you'll grow. You can help others as well.
Fascinating. What a great bloke. Johnny, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for welcoming me to your pad.
Anytime.
I'll catch you soon.
You know where I am.
I do now, but it's not easy getting here.
That's right.
Thank you, man.